At the beginning of everything, a young man is talking about Runa, who for him is the most beautiful girl in all the classes, and as for him, Kashima Ryuuto, he describes himself as the complete opposite of her. He is an ordinary introvert, with nothing interesting to offer the world. He is 16 years old but is still single and a virgin, in addition to not having many friends, and while he continues in this delusion, he claims that he lives in a completely different world than Runa. And because of that, he feels that if he gets too close to her he would end up turning to ashes, so the boy thinks that the best thing to do is to remain isolated in his corner, being the loser he always was, so that he can bury himself in his heart any trace of admiration he once felt for Runa. However, in the very next scene, the two are in a room, and Ryuuto's idiot is scared when he sees a girl taking off her clothes in front of him, and questions what she is doing. And Runa doesn't understand anything. After all, she thought they were going to have sexual intercourse, and well, the scene cuts to the school, and the teacher asks the students to answer the questionnaire regarding the parents' meeting. And there's Ryuuto, feeling lucky to have fallen into the same class as Runa. And speaking of the girl, she's with her friends, commenting on clothes and fashion accessories. And so Ryuuto continues to pay attention to her, like all the good stuff, until he hears a group of boys commenting that they have a chance of dating Runa, as they say she is cool and changes boyfriends as well as changing clothes. And from this they deduce that the girl is the type who cannot be satisfied with just one guy. And upon hearing this, Ryuuto is saddened, as he has heard these types of rumors since the first year. However, he becomes convinced that someone like him would never be able to get close to her anyway, so he thinks about himself again, and sees himself as an introverted young man in his second year. And Ryuuto starts counting on his fingers how many people have come to talk to him since the beginning of classes, and comes to the conclusion that he only exchanged ideas with introverted and strange guys like him, like Ichi and Nishi, for example. On top of that, it was just two guys. That's right, our prota has a good social life as we can see, but all that changes, because the girl he's really into comes to his table to talk to him. But she just asks to borrow a mechanical pencil, and that's enough to scare the guy. And when he looks at the girl, he realizes that her breasts are almost visible. However, he tries to correct these wrong thoughts, saying that he shouldn't have these things in mind. Besides, the girl was there talking to him in a good way, even though he was a weird guy. And he remembers that he was already strange since the first year. But still, Runa treats and has always treated everyone equally, and that would be one of the reasons he admires her. And well, she finishes using her mechanical pencil, and thanks him for his kindness, and when the boy sees her sweet smile, the guy stops in 7 seconds, but all that comforting feeling is over in the blink of an eye. However, those measly seconds of interaction were enough to make him madly in love with Runa. Well, at break time, there's Ryuuto with his strange friends, and Ichi comments about having watched Ken's entire life. And Nishi says he couldn't catch the game in time because he woke up very late, and that's why he didn't even have a chance to enter Ken's village, so to de-stress, he went to play in another lobby, and as a result he almost lost his game. School time. And all this perseverance of your friends impresses Ryuuto, as he states that he already suffers just to follow the guys' lives, and then Ichi explains that for the Ken kids, being chosen and playing with their idol is everyone's biggest dream. However, Ryuuto explains that he opened the registrations at a bad time, after all they are in exam season, and thanks to that, the two say they were unable to enter and be one of the kids. And they say they are afraid to see the grade they will get on the tests, so Ichi says that his parents will stop him from playing if his grades are low. As for Nishi, the guy is being threatened with having his cell phone plan cut off. But Ryuuto tries to give the crowd a motivational boost, saying that they should remain confident in the results of the tests, which makes his friends excited. And Nishi proposes a challenge to them. The boy says that whoever gets the highest grade must do whatever the students with the worst grades tell them, and well, the grades arrive, and as expected, Nishi and Ichi are the worst. With this he reminds Ryuuto of the agreement they had, and their first order is for the boy to declare himself to the girl he likes, but he doesn't understand why they want that. Then Ichi says that he is very clumsy, and will certainly end up being rejected in a way that makes him feel sorry. And then Nishi explains that he should get a taste of rock bottom, just like them with their low grades. However, Ryuuto tries to deflect the conversation by saying that there is no girl he likes, but out of nowhere he remembers Runa and ends up staying silent, and this shows that he really likes someone. And well, the school bell rings, and the boy is behind a tree, regretting having taken on such a challenge. But when he looks at his friends, he feels that they are important to him, and that gives him the necessary energy for Ryuuto to fulfill his promise. Furthermore, the boy also wants to make clear how he feels about Runa so that he can be rejected quickly and be able to put his mind back together, so he interprets that challenge as an entrance exam that he is sure he won't pass. And well, he feels that she won't come to meet him, even though he left a note in her locker, but to his surprise, he starts to hear some footsteps, and yes, it was the girl, and she comes all shining in your direction. And he asks him if that note was from him, so Ryuuto says yes. And Runa laughs at the formal way he speaks to her even though they are both from the same class, and then gets even closer to him, and asks him what he wanted to talk about with her. But the guy is speechless, and just keeps thinking about how a beautiful girl like her can be nice to him, who is a stranger excluded from society, and then he tries to say that he likes him, but his voice doesn't come out at first. However, the guy is insistent, and when he tries for the second time, Ryuuto manages to say that he likes her, and Runa asks why he likes her, and the boy manages to say that she is beautiful, but considers that he has already reached his limit. The only thing he wants at that moment is for Runa to reject him soon, for him to get out of that embarrassing situation. But luck was on his side, and the girl asks to date him, and says that she is now single. But upon hearing this, the boy screams, showing surprise at the answer, because for Ryuuto, either it's a dream, or Runa is pulling one over on him. But the girl comes closer to him and asks if he wants to or don't date her. And after continuing to question whether it was a dream, he just decides to say yes, to see what happens, and then Runa asks him to leave together, leaving his friends disappointed, after all they wanted to see her humiliating him. Well, on the way Ryuuto still feels like he's in a dream, and doesn't know if he's really walking next to Runa, and she questions how to read his name, and when the boy says it, she praises his name, saying it sounds good. Then Ryuuto puts his hand on his heart, to try to calm down, because in his head, she will still reject him at some point. Well, she asks if they had already talked before, and he remembers the time she asked to borrow a mechanical pencil for him. But Ryuuto thinks that by showing that he remembers something so trivial, she will brand him as a weirdo, and so he says that they had never actually talked. And he questions her why she agreed to date him, because in his head, all that was still too strange to be true, and he then remembers a time when a girl called him her friend, and he believes that will happen the same thing now. And well, Ryuuto tells her that he doubts that Runa likes him too. Besides, for her he didn't even exist a short time ago. So the girl explains that she will start getting to know him now, because even he doesn't know much about her. And besides, Runa says that she's already starting to like him a little, and reminds him about him saying the same thing to her previously. Then Ryuuto says that this was something very superficial to have made her start to like him. However, she takes his horse out of the rain, and explains that she has not yet fallen in love with him, as she is not the type to fall in love easily. And she starts to describe the least attractive model of man she knows, and the descriptions leave him amazed, because he discovered what she really considers strange people. Basically, she doesn't like unhygienic men. And well, she explains to him that it's not nice to just hear, "I like you," as he had said, and the boy questions whether this, like, would be too superficial for her. And the girl says she doesn't see a problem with that, because even though it's a word that shows a superficial feeling, this phrase continues to have the meaning that there's an atmosphere going on, making the two people want to get to know each other more. And for Runa, a good way to get to know someone better is to date them, because even if the relationship begins with superficial feelings, throughout the relationship, this feeling can become more intense. And upon hearing this, Ryuuto realizes that the girl gets many boyfriends not only because she is popular, in addition, she is more open and accepts likes in more comprehensive ways, that is, whatever falls into her lap is profit. However, she says that she still hasn't gotten to like anyone intensely, even though she's been with them for a long time, and the boy asks why, and Runa says that men get sick of her face. After all, she's usually very faithful when she's dating, and says that if a boy asks her to be his girlfriend while she's already in a relationship, she'll immediately refuse. And well, when they're on the train, Ryuuto remembers that rumor about her being stuck and not lasting with any guy, and besides, he also remembers that his classmates said that the girl is very active. And then she gets off at her station, and he says goodbye. But Runa asks him to accompany her to her house, and when they arrive at the door, he says goodbye and turns his back. But Runa says that there is no one at home, and invites him in. Then he swallows hard and asks if it's okay for him to come in, and Runa says no. After all, they are boyfriends, and the first place they go is to her room. And Runa tells him to sit down and make himself comfortable, while so she goes to the kitchen to get something for them to drink, and the boy admires the room, and remains in disbelief with everything, as he was alone in the room of the girl he likes. And to take advantage of this situation, he soon lets himself be taken over by the perversity in his body, and tries to open the drawer where he thinks her panties are. But she arrives just in time, and Ryuuto hides, pretending that he had tripped over the drawer, which was already open. Then Runa takes one of her nightgowns and shows it to him, saying that she bought it with her friends, and then he is relieved, because it wasn't her underwear drawer. But still, he learned the lesson of not touching things others without permission. Well, she asks him to sit down, but when he looks around he can't find anywhere other than the bed, and that drives him crazy, because he feels like he'll lose control if he sits on the same bed as a pretty girl. And the girl then asks if he's the type to take a shower first, but he hears this and doesn't understand anything, and then Runa says that she had a physical education class, and that makes her feel embarrassed, as she might be very sweaty. And as she says this, she begins to take off her clothes, and the boy begins to understand what is happening, and wonders if he will lose his virginity that day. But even though everything seemed favorable, he stops her and asks what Runa is doing. And the girl doesn't understand anything, because she thought they were going to stop. But Ryuuto says it's still too early. After all, a little while ago she didn't even know her name. And he asks if she has no problem doing that with someone like him. But she says that they are boyfriends now. But Ryuuto says that still, she doesn't know him, and says that he could be a depraved guy. But the girl says she thought boys only thought about that kind of thing when they were alone with their girlfriend. And he explains that he's different. For Ryuuto, he wants their relationship to be something more meaningful and special, so that wouldn't be it the best time to do that. However, he still asks if she really wanted to do that, but Runa explains that she doesn't know. After all, for her, dating just meant doing that, almost as if it were a duty. And she says that if her girlfriend doesn't let the guy do these things to her, he will certainly jump ship and go after another girl. And upon hearing this, Ryuuto remembers her saying that her boyfriends always leave her because they get tired of her. And his theory about guys getting tired of her is that Runa is too easy, and because men don't see the value in her, they end up looking for another girl, especially if the guy is a confident, outgoing stud. And well, she asks again if they will go to the final that day, and in his mind he makes it clear that he really wants to, even because she might change her mind tomorrow. However, he wants to remain a difficult man, different from his exes, her boyfriends. So the boy refuses to do that day. Well, they then go for a walk, and Ryuuto regrets not having agreed to go to the finals with her. And Runa says that he is a very serious guy and different from the boyfriends she has ever had, so he questions whether that would be a bad thing, and she says no, it is just something different for her. And Ryuuto confesses to her that this was the first time he went out with a girl, and says that he has no friendships or contact with other girls, so if she doesn't want to do that with him, Ryuuto won't let her to go after other women. And he explains that he wants to do this at a time when she is also in the mood, so that she can relax and not treat that moment as a duty. In this she understands his way of thinking, and asks him if she can call him if you want to make a real stop. And he says yes, so Runa comments that maybe when that day comes, their relationship will no longer be superficial, that is, it will be when they both really like each other. But in his mind, the boy already likes Runa a lot. And the girl says that it really must be better not to do things in a hurry. And the guy stands there staring at her and wondering if he's even worthy of doing this to her. Well, the girl says goodbye to him, and Ryuuto goes home if feeling frustrated for not having done the deal with her. On the way to school, Ryuuto thinks in Runa and in his relationship with the girl. And although they are already dating, he still doesn't believe that something like that was happening. After all, a girl like her doesn't match at all with an introvert like him. Well, he receives a message from Runa, and she says that she ended up sleeping too much, and that's why she was going to be late for class. And Ryuuto doesn't know what to say to her in that situation, and he just responds that if she goes by bike to the station, she'll be able to get to her first class, and wishes Runa good luck. She then thanks him in cool slang, which makes him feel like crap for not being able to respond to her messages in a fun way too, and with that he heads off to class. And he continues talking to her hidden from the teacher until the girl appears out of nowhere in the room, and Ryuuto stands there admiring her beauty, and that includes his friends too, and then Nicole says that Runa is late, and the girl replies that was late because of makeup. And well, she looks back at Ryuuto, and throws a heart in the boy's direction, who gets all silly, and during the break he talks about being alone with Runa at her house. And Ichi deduces that if they were at her house if no one else was, they must have certainly done something else, and Nishi asks if he has already entered adulthood, and Ryuuto says that she seemed willing to do that, but he didn't do anything. So his friends question why he didn't happen, after all the girl was into it, and Ryuuto responds that he was unprepared at the time, and Ichi explains that even though he's a virgin, he should have had his condom on hand, so as not to run into this risk. However, Ryuuto says that he wasn't talking about that kind of preparation, the issue he was raising was emotional. His friends tease him about this, calling him a damsel, and Ichi says that no one pays attention to him, therefore Ryuuto shouldn't have lost this precious chance. However, the boy says that they are dating, so another opportunity will definitely arise, and his friend questions whether Ryuuto really thinks that a guy like him could date Runa. And Ichi explains that this girl is at the top of the school hierarchy, and Nishi says that her dating him isn't good for her image with the other more extroverted guys. And because she's a girl who keeps jumping from man to man, her friends deduce that she just chose to date him on a whim, or for a night of fun, and Ichi says that Ryuuto will suffer if he starts acting like her boyfriend. However, Nishi tells his friend not to say these things to Ryuuto as he wants to let his colleague dream a little longer, and then he wonders if his friends are right, and returns to the room reflectively. Then Runa goes there to talk to him, and tells him that she had dreamed about the boy that night, and says that it was that kind of dream where he enters her room, and when he hears this the guy trembles all over, and the other students laugh in his face, calling him a bigot. And well, Runa's friend looks at him seriously in an almost psychopathic way, and that makes him shake even more, and so to get out of that situation he gives the excuse that he didn't finish his homework. However, after that, Runa started talking to him more at school, and although he is happy about that, the looks from the other students bother him, especially the look from Runa's cool friend. And well, he calls his girlfriend to talk alone, and he asks if she's been talking to her friends about them dating, and she says she told Nicole. Then Ryuuto is finally able to understand those sinister looks because she already knows that he is her best friend's boyfriend, and Runa questions whether she shouldn't have told Nicole, and also asks if he said that to his friends. And then he responds that he told two friends about their relationship, but says that the problem is when she talks to him, because it attracts looks, so she questions if he wants to avoid her at school and keep the relationship a secret. And Ryuuto says he would like to do something like that, so Runa asks him in what money they could talk, and he replies that they could talk on the weekends, or outside of school. However, upon realizing the strangeness of what he was saying, Ryuuto trembles. After all, he doesn't consider himself worthy of sharing weekends with Runa, and the girl questions whether he would like to speak to her only when they go out together. And Ryuuto is embarrassed again but says yes, and she responds that she will have plans on Sunday but she would be free on Saturday to be with him. And well, the days pass, and Ryuuto is apprehensive about the next day, as it will be Saturday, and he will go out with Runa, and so he starts searching on Google for places to take the girl. But he still feels bad for not knowing what to do, and to make matters worse, Runa calls him on a video call, making him apprehensive about not letting anything strange appear in the background of the call. And then he just points his cell phone towards the wall, and when he answers the call he asks her what she wants to talk to him about, and Runa explains that it's about the date he invited her to go to the next day. And she asks where he's going to take her, so he stops, and says that since it's their first date he thought about going to the movies with her, and Runa asks what his favorite movie is. And this bothers him, because he only goes to the cinema once a year, so he doesn't know anything about films, and then Runa changes the question, and asks him about what he wants them to do together. But Ryuuto doesn't know what to answer, so she asks him why he asked her out, and he replies shyly that he just wants to get to know her better. And he asks what she does on the days she's free, but Runa asks him again, asking why he wants to know that, and the boy comes clean, and says he doesn't want to do anything specific in the city, so she thought it would be cooler if they did something she actually liked. And Runa says that this is the first time that a boyfriend has asked her that, and she responds that she wants to go with him somewhere, to do something, but she doesn't say what it is, and that leaves Ryuuto dying with curiosity, and the first thing that comes to mind is that Runa would take him to a motel. However, the next day she just takes him to a women's clothing store, and when he sees her wearing normal clothes, Ryuuto notices that the girl is much cooler than he imagined. And the other girls around comment on Runa being very cute, and wonder if the girl would be a magazine model, and upon hearing that, Ryuuto is impressed, because Runa's beauty stands out even in the big city. And then he looks in the mirror and feels unworthy of his presence again, because he feels out of place around the girl. But Runa goes to him, taking him by the arm, and says she wants to stop by another store nearby. And after shopping, the two sit down to have a drink, and Runa says she is very happy to have gone shopping, but shows concern about whether Ryuuto is feeling bored. And he says no, but Runa responds that he is lying to her because the girl noticed that he didn't even look at the products in the stores, and Ryuuto says that even so, the meeting wasn't boring, and says that he was just paying attention to her and how happy the girl was around her. Try on clothes. And he says that she is very beautiful when she is happy, but then he backtracks and apologizes, because he thought he was saying nasty things to her, and Runa questions whether he really had fun seeing her shopping. And Ryuuto responds that seeing her happy makes him happy too, and Runa says that what he said made her embarrassed, and says that he's really a different guy than she was used to. And he reflects again on his relationship, and even though he was interested in her before, now he is actually in love with Runa because they are going out together. Well, Nicole calls her, and when she answers, Runa says that everything is going well on the date, but in Ryuto's mind, her friend must certainly be destroying him for her. And when looking at the table next to him, he notices an extroverted guy talking to the girls, and this makes him feel insufficient again, and he deduces that Runa will never fall in love with someone like him. And upon returning home, he feels that he deduced things correctly, as Runa ignored his last message, and this had never happened before since they were together. And then Ryuuto remembers again the plans for Sunday that Runa had said she had, and wonders what those plans were, and soon becomes suspicious, because the girl doesn't let go of her cell phone for anything, and always answers him right away. Therefore he deduces that these plans must be preventing her from talking to him, and in Ryuuto's mind she must be planning to go out with an extroverted guy who is better than him. He goes to watch a live broadcast of Ken, his favorite YouTuber, and says that he certainly wouldn't betray him, after all he always posts new videos, so he stays there enjoying the broadcast. And the next day his friends comment on all the energy that Ryuuto was emanating the day before, and ask if he is a role model for the Ken kids. And well, while they were talking about nerdy topics, Runa talks to the boys from the football club, and they invite her to watch their training, but she says she doesn't know much about football rules. And they say that she doesn't need to understand these things, so Ryuuto remembers the previous day again and remembers that Runa only saw his message at the end of the afternoon, and upon noticing him sad, his friends say that his life as an introvert is like that. And after class, he returns home and receives a message from Runa where she asks him to come see her at the station, and then he starts to think that Runa is going to break up with him or something like that. And on the way, Ryuuto says that there is still a way for him to back off and go back to being the virgin he always was before falling in love with her, but he remembers when he refused to do those things with the girl, and he feels sorry for not having taken advantage. After all, in his mind it was all over, and he couldn't even do that to make up for it, and well, he finally locates her, and in his mind he already creates a sentence to say about the end of the relationship. And when he was about to thank her for dating her, Runa points her cell phone at him, and says that she wanted to show him her new cell phone case, and she explains that that case was a limited edition, and you could only buy one per person. And then he gives a yellow smile and demonstrates to be happy for her, but he wonders why she made a point of showing this to him, and so she gives one of these cases to Ryuuto too, so that the two of them can wear it together. And he wonders why she did that, and also remembers her saying that you could only buy one per person, and Runa explains that she asked Nicole to stand in line with her, and says that the two of them were playing on their cell phones from early in the morning until the store opens. And during this game, her cell phone ended up dead, and because of that she ended up not being able to answer him. In other words, the guy was worrying about nothing. And Runa explains that she was already going to buy a case like that, so she thought it would be a good idea to give one to him too, so they could match. And the girl says that she really wanted to surprise him, and that made her uneasy even while she was there at school. However, when looking at Ryuuto, she notices that the boy is very serious, and asks if he didn't like the case, but he holds the cell phone to his chest, and confesses to her that he was feeling very insecure because of someone so beautiful, him chosen as her boyfriend. And that's why he couldn't believe that it was real, and he says he felt insecure about it because in his mind she would get tired of him and leave him at any moment. However, seeing that she went to so much trouble to make this surprise for him, Ryuuto confesses that he is feeling very happy, and then he thanks Runa with a smile on his face. And she says she didn't expect him to be so happy. Well, they go home together, and Runa sighs in relief as she didn't expect her week-long birthday surprise to be a success. And he doesn't understand what she's talking about, and Runa explains that they've been dating for a week, and Ryuuto had no idea how time had passed, but he thinks that celebrating a week of dating is a little strange. Well, the girl tells him that she was worried about his first reaction because she thought Ryuuto didn't like her gift, and he apologizes, and changes the subject, talking about a time when he declared himself to a girl. At this, Runa shows excitement in hearing about their love stories, and the scream says that the girl was in her class in elementary school, and sat next to her. And on a certain day, the girl mentioned to him that she liked his sweet way of being, and it went to his head, making him believe that the girl had the same type of feelings that he had for her. And then, one day he decided to declare himself to her, asking her to be his girlfriend, but the girl says that she only considers him as a good friend, and from then on, Ryuuto says that he started to no longer be confident with girls. However, Runa says she is grateful that this girl refused him. After all, if the two were still dating, he would not have declared himself to Runa and the two would not be in a relationship now. But Ryuuto says that a relationship between two people so young doesn't usually last long anyway. But Runa disputes this, saying that her parents started dating in the first year of elementary school, and they remain together to this day. Plus, she says they're each other's first love, and they got married right after they finished high school. Basically her parents are everything Runa isn't. And upon hearing this, Ryuuto is impressed, and the girl says that she always wanted something like that for herself too. Well, a cool car appears out of nowhere, catching both of their attention. And then Ryuuto recognizes that car as a GR Supra RZ, and in addition to knowing the name, he also knows that only 100 units were made in the Horizon Blue Edition color. And Runa says that he really knows how to do it, and asks Ryuuto what's different about that car from conventional cars, and the boy replies that sports cars are very different from normal cars, because common cars only prioritize comfort, so over time, it becomes difficult to reach high speeds with them. And then he starts reciting the Bhaskara formula to say that the common car is not that good, leaving Runa without understanding anything. And then he realizes that he's talking too quickly about nerdy things, and he feels like it sounds weird to her, so he apologizes, but Runa says she's never heard him talk so much. And then he apologizes even more, but she says she's fine, and explains that she sounds like a sports car, because she was always running hard to be like her parents, and in that she ran faster and faster to get to the stage adult. And this made her go through countless experiences from an early age, but she never saw anything working, such as her relationships, which always ended soon after she started dating. And she confesses that in fact her parents have already divorced, and says that although she has sought out these adult experiences, she remains a child internally, and says she is incompetent to reflect on complicated things, so she keeps to superficial opinions about everything. And then Ryuuto explains that sports cars aren't just made to get us to our destination faster, they're made to make that journey more fun too. And he says that Runa is always surrounded by friends, and is never without a boyfriend, and for him, she is enjoying her school years in the best way possible, and that is the true meaning of being a sports car. And he adds that he likes sports cars, and Runa becomes convinced that sports cars are truly incredible and then decides that she will continue to enjoy her life the way she always has. And she has the idea of them racing to the station, but Ryuuto reflects and comes to the conclusion that he is still not able to keep up with Runa, but still, he feels curious to find out more about the girl. And well, she goes back to the house and thanks Nicole because the surprise she planned for Ryuuto went well, but Nicole says that she shouldn't try hard to like him in case she thinks they don't match. And Runa says that she is still not sure about her feelings for him, but she says that she feels very good in Ryuuto's presence, because when they are together, she can be herself, so she decided that she will continue with him for now. But Nicole says she still doesn't trust him. Well, the next day, the teacher arrives in the classroom saying that they will have a new student in the class, and the girl introduces herself to Kuro's Maria, who in this case is Ryuuto's childhood friend. The new student introduces herself as Kuro's Maria, and all the classmates are starting to praise the girl's good looks, and Ryuuto remembers when he declared himself to her, and on that specific day he was rejected, because the girl didn't want him, and said she only considered him a good friend. However, he tries to confirm himself with that past rejection because now he already has Runa, a girlfriend he considers wonderful, and well, the teacher asks Kuros to talk more about her to the students, and she explains that she returned to that region later 3 years, and she says that she still doesn't know much about that school, but she hopes that everyone can be receptive to her, and then the guys get excited, saying that they will definitely help her, and she thanks them for the help, and says that it's a pleasure to meet them. Well, she notices that Ryuuto is right in front of her, but in his mind, she probably won't remember him. After all, Kuros would have no reason to, and Ryuuto says he will do his best to stay away from her. Well, the teacher chooses the place where she will sit, and places the girl to sit right next to Ryuuto. And the girl recognizes him, and says that it's quite a coincidence that they're sitting next to each other again, and then the student behind her talks to Kuros, and she explains that she studied with Ryuuto in the past, and meanwhile, he's lost in your thoughts. And he imagines that any conversation he has with her will remind Kuros of the statement he made in the past, and for that reason he goes back to imagining that the best thing is to stay away from the girl. Well, when the bell rings, other students they go to Kuros, and comment on her being very beautiful. And Ryuuto takes the opportunity to leave her side, but Runa's friend catches his attention, and he gets scared, because she always seems to be angry, but she says she just wants to talk to him, so the two go to a cafeteria, and he starts to apologize and asks if he did something wrong. However, she says that she wants to eat the potatoes before they start talking, and Ryuuto lowers his head as if intimidated, and well, after eating the potatoes she tells him that Runa's birthday is on Sunday next week, and Yamana asks if he already knew that. But he says no. And the girl gets angry and questions if he really intends to date Runa, and Ryuuto replies yes, but she scolds him, because as her boyfriend he should know the girl's birthday. And then he apologizes for that, and Yamana lets it go, but says that he should prepare something to celebrate Runa's birthday, and the girl explains that she just wanted to tell him that without having her friend around. And at that she starts to leave, but Ryuuto stops her and asks what types of things Runa likes, and he says that he wants to get an idea to buy an ideal birthday present, and upon hearing this, Yamana says that he should ask her directly for Runa. And he says that Osasa's cell phone case, she gave it to him because they had completed a week of dating, and then he says he also wants to surprise her with a unique gift, and Yamana understands what he was saying, and is willing to help him, but asks Ryuuto to guarantee that Runa will be happy with the gift. But while they're talking, a girl takes a photo of the two of them. Well, after that he meets Runa at the exit of the subway, and asks what she's doing there, and the girl replies that she wants to talk to him but she couldn't do it on the school, since he banned it. And well, she shows the photo they took of him with her friend, and asks if that really happened. He is embarrassed and says yes, but soon changes the subject, and asks if she will be free next Sunday, and Runa says yes. And then he asks the girl to let him celebrate her birthday with her, and explains that Yamana had said that she would have her birthday on Sunday, and upon hearing this, she becomes calmer, and Ryuuto says that he would like to call her to leave first so they can talk about her birthday. And well, he apologizes for not asking Runa's birthday sooner, but she says it's okay, and apologizes for catching him by surprise. So she turns around and says she's going to school alone. after all. It would be bad for Ryuuto if the students saw the two of them together. And when she leaves, he wonders if Runa was jealous of him going out with her friend. After all, the girl had a face he hadn't seen before, and well, he says he's determined to do so. She's happy on her birthday, and for that Ryuuto plans to spend the whole week crafting the perfect date for her. And then the day of the meeting arrives, and she was really happy. At that, Ryuuto remembers that Yamana had said that Runa's favorite place is Harajuku, so if he has no idea where to take her, just go there. And seeing the girl all happy, he is sure that Yamana was indeed right. And after arriving at the place, he takes her to a tea establishment, and soon he remembers that Yamana said that Runa loves bubble tea, to the point of drinking it non-stop, and she claims that she actually loves them, and says that that bubble tea is the best there is. And Ryuuto is relieved that everything is working out. After all, Yamana didn't lie about anything. Well, the girl offers to pay her part of the bill, but Ryuuto says he will pay everything himself, as they are there celebrating her birthday. So she accepts, and thanks Ryuuto. Well, he asks her what she thinks of that tea with milk and sago, and she says it was very good. And then he starts making some notes on a piece of paper, and thinks he's already lost his ideas. Count how many bubble teas you drank that week. And well, he starts talking in a very nerdy way about the tea she just had, and starts giving examples of other teas she could drink. But all those complex words went into her ear and out the other. After all, Runa, I no longer understood anything he was saying. And when he finally stops talking, Ryuuto notices that he left the girl with a look of astonishment and disgust again, and she questions whether he really likes bubble tea so much, and he says that he found out that she likes these teas, and that's why he decided to study them, to be prepared for that encounter. And upon hearing this, she gets scared, and asks if he had done all this for her, and Ryuuto explains that he just wanted to like something that she also likes, but when he says that, in his mind he thinks that Runa is disgusted by his virgin master attitude. However, the girl smiles, and says that no one has ever done this for her, and also says that that bubble tea is the best she has ever had so far. And after that, she gets excited and asks them to go to the next store from Ryuuto's map. And after passing through many places, he offers her some more tea, but Runa asks if he wouldn't drink it too, and the boy explains that his stomach is already full, but she tries to offer him some tea anyway, and questions whether it really was that full. The boy is embarrassed to accept. After all, she had put her mouth on that straw, but he ends up accepting, and when drinking the tea, he almost falls to the floor with excitement, and Runa says that the cream cheese and rock salt make a beautiful combination in that tea. And well, she goes back to drinking her tea, and says that what they did was an indirect kiss, and upon hearing this Ryuuto blushes, but he feels that spending that time with his girlfriend is making him very happy. And towards the end of the afternoon, they start to leave, and Runa comments that she filled up on bubble tea, and Ryuuto remembers that he still needs to tell Runa about Kuro's, and so he tries to speak, but the two interrupt each other, and Ryuuto decides to take the opportunity to change the subject, and apologizes to Runa, as he was thinking about letting her choose a birthday present, but he only has 1,000 yen left. So the girl would have to choose something up to that amount. And well, she takes the map from his hand, and says that she wants it as a birthday present, as no one had ever done anything like that for her. So Runa would keep that paper as a souvenir of that day, as it symbolized his effort for her, and that would be a sign of his love. And then she says that she will keep that paper carefully, and says that he should take her to another bubble tea more often, and Ryuuto says that he will do that, and he will update the map, as he must have opened new stores, and well, she thanks him again for that, and says that her first day at 17 was perfect. And the next day at school, Ryuuto hears boys talking bad about Runa again, and they comment that the girl is very round and is always changing her boyfriends after using them, and another girl says that Runa is interested, because he doesn't even touch his wallet when he's on a date. Well, Ryuuto heads to his room, and on the way he wonders what is going on, as they are spreading rumors about her above normal, and he wonders who would spread rumors like that. And at break time, his friends notice that he is very thoughtful, and Nishi asks if Ryuuto wouldn't eat. But while they are talking, Yamana appears out of nowhere in front of them with a serious face, so his friends run away in fear. And she asks why they ran away, and Ryuuto pretends not to understand, and says that he doesn't know why either. Well, the girl says that Runa told her about the meeting they had, and Yamana's conclusion is that he is a weirdo. And he thanks her for that, as if being called a weirdo was a compliment, and well, he says he was just thanking her for the help she gave him. But the girl changes the subject, and asks if he's ever noticed anything different at school. And he asks if it was about the new rumors about Runa, and Yamana is impressed that even he noticed that, and wonders who would have done that. Well, they go back to the room, and Kurose already greets Ryuuto, and offers him snacks. Then the class starts, and they sit together, because Kurose forgot her book. They then wonder where they ended up in the book, but when they put their hands on the page, they touch, and this leaves Ryuuto very distressed. Well, the teacher forgets something in another room, and says that she will leave them alone for a moment, and Kurose takes the opportunity to talk to him, and apologizes for that other day, saying that he didn't know much about this dating thing, but she claims that now she knows what good he has to offer. And upon hearing this, Ryuuto wonders what she is implying, and he is already afraid of interpreting her words all wrong again. But he understands that even if the girl wants him, now he has Runa as his girlfriend. And then he responds exactly that, and Kurose is surprised to find out, and asks if it would be someone from that school. But he is a little afraid to say who it is, but she says she promises not to tell anyone, and he even momentarily thinks about saying who it is, but ends up backing down again. Because if someone found out that he and Runa were dating, people would make fun of her, and well, he sees the girl entering a room with another guy and goes there to spy, and then he sees a student asking to date her, but Runa refuses and says she has a boyfriend. However, the boy says that Akari had said she was free, and Runa explains that she just hadn't told her that she was dating, and then the boy asks who her boyfriend would be, but Runa says that it's a secret. At this the boy gets indignant, and asks if Runa doesn't want people to know who she's dating, but she says that it's okay for her if people know, and Runa says that her boyfriend is a shy guy about these things. However, the boy continues to insist, and says that any guy would love to brag and say that he is dating her, and Runa reaffirms that she will continue to keep it a secret, and the boy asks if she is dating one of the school's weirdos, and says that if she's one of those guys, it makes sense that she would be embarrassed to let others know. But the girl defends her boyfriend, saying that he's not boring, and says that she's just respecting his choice of not telling him that the two of them are dating, and Runa says that even if the whole world knew who her boyfriend is, she wouldn't feel embarrassed. And Ryuuto is surprised to hear this, because for him, Runa really wouldn't want people to know that she's dating him, and well, Ichi goes to him and asks Ryuuto to finish his homework quickly, and the boy says he's already done. To finish. Then Kurose turns around to talk to him, and comments on the rumors involving Runa, and also says that one of his friends is the girl's ex-boyfriend, and this boy would have reported that dating Runa was very tiring, as she was always he took advantage of the boys, making them always pay for everything on dates. And then Kurose says that she is a very selfish girl, and Ryuuto asks if her friend was really talking about Runa, to which Kurose says yes, and he is confused about that. After all, Runa proposed to pay her part of the bill. Furthermore, she didn't want an expensive gift and settled for the map he had brought. And well, he asks if Kurose talked about this story about her friend with anyone else, and she says she doesn't remember, but she thinks it wouldn't be a bad thing to do, since she found out that whenever her boyfriend runs out of money, she moves on to the next one. And upon hearing this, Ryuuto loses control, and tells Kurose to stop talking bad about Runa, and also says that her ex is lying, because Runa is not like he described, and Ryuuto says that she has a lot of consideration for her boyfriend and is always thinking about him. Then Kurose questions who this boyfriend he is talking about could be, and when pressing him, Ryuuto ends up confessing that he is Runa's boyfriend, and then everyone in the room hears him. Upon hearing what the boy had just in other words, the students don't believe him, but Runa claims that she is really dating Ryuuto, and after this revelation, Kurose runs out of the room, and Ryuuto goes after her, and asks if she was responsible for spreading rumors about him. Your girlfriend. Then the girl continues to keep to herself, and he asks what would have made her do that, and Kurose explains that she did it just to demote Runa, as she wants to be number one in school. And besides, she says she doesn't want to let Runa take anything else away from her. And then Kurose reveals that they are twin sisters. At this, Ryuuto is to be believed, and the girl explains that they are fraternal twins, and he comments that their last names are different, and then Kurose explains that in the 5th grade, her parents divorced, and that's why she ended up with the last name of your mother. And after that, she got married again, whereupon she and her mother returned to live with her grandfather, and Kurose revealed that she was repelled by being Runa's sister, as she always knew how to draw more attention, and because of that she was spoiled by everyone in the family. As for Kurose, she was more reserved, and always had difficulty expressing herself, and the girl explains that because she was like that, she was the one who had to move and change her name when her parents separated. In other words, the only one who had to adapt to all the changes in life was her, and not her sister, and it was from that moment on that Kurose understood that to be happy, she had to become a girl similar to Runa. But she refuses to do this, and instead of becoming a copy of her sister, she decided to prove that she can also be loved by being a different girl. However, at the end of it all, Kurose still sees her sister as being number one, so Ryuuto understands why she spread those rumors about Runa, and although he thinks it's wrong, he says he understands her feelings. But upon hearing this, the girl becomes furious, and says that he doesn't understand anything about her life, and he explains that he doesn't really know how she feels about her parents. But Ryuuto claims that the two are similar, because like her, he also has difficulty expressing his feelings, and when looking at Runa, he explains that he also feels a very different aura in her, as the girl is sincere with everyone, and treats anyone naturally, without hesitation. And although she is a radiant person, for Ryuuto there is no point in neither him nor Kurose trying to imitate her, after all they would only suffer if they did that, and he states that one day Kurose will meet someone compatible with her, and Ryuuto advises her to be a girl that person will love. There, the girl tries to refute his words, but she ends up tripping, and asks him to leave her alone, and well. Upon returning to the room, Yamana praises his courage in revealing that he is dating Runa. And the girl, in turn, asks if this wouldn't be a problem for him, after all he didn't want people to know that they were dating, and he explains that he had no choice, as he needed to defend her honor, and upon hearing this, the girl gets emotional, and she shows that she doesn't know about these rumors reaching him and Kurose. And then Runa wonders who it would have started with these stories, but she leaves that aside and apologizes for not having contacted him about these rumors before, and she also talks about her relationship with her sister, and says that they don't get along so well, but for Runa, Kurose is still a good girl, and she questions if he would have believed those rumors, and Ryuuto says no. But she reminds him that he doesn't know what she was like before they dated, but Ryuuto claims that he likes who she is now, so her past doesn't matter to her. However, he says that he has known her long enough to know that she would not do those things that the rumor reported, and upon hearing this, she feels more motivated to forget these rumors about her past. And well, she wonders why her sister was transferred to her school, and meanwhile, Kurose finds herself in a complicated situation, as she claims to be starting to like Ryuuto, and if she lets that happen, she will be second again. And the next day, Ryuuto feels anxious about going to school after having assumed his relationship with Runa. But when he arrives at school, everyone treats him normally, and from this he deduces that people were only impressed by it at the time. After all, everyone must have other matters to deal with, instead of paying attention to his relationship. And well, during the break he talks to Runa, and she explains that she was very happy when he said he wanted to like something she likes, and that's why Runa also wants to do the same, and then she asks him what he usually does when you are free. And at first he is reluctant to say what he does, but in the end he reveals that he just watches live gameplays and things like that, and he says that his favorite streamer is a guy called Ken. And while he talks about this guy, Runa, he starts traveling because he doesn't understand anything about games and nerdy talk. And when he turns his gaze to her, he realizes that the girl was floating the subject, and to calm the situation, Runa says that she wants to watch one of those gameplay lives, and then he shows one of Ken's videos on his cell phone, and as they watch, he notices that she is already starting to like him more. And Ryuuto feels that if that is true, they can now take a step forward in their relationship. But before making any decision, he goes to his friends to ask what would be the most efficient way to kiss her, but they get nervous, after all he is asking the wrong people. But still, they decide to help their friend, in the name of the friendship they have. But soon afterwards they are petrified with envy, and Ichi says again that they don't have the answer to their question. And well, as kissing her is a step much further, Ryuuto has the idea of starting by holding the girl's hand, and then he goes to her and asks her to meet at Ueno Park, at which Runa gets very excited, and she reveals who hasn't been to this park since elementary school. And after she accepted, Ryuuto celebrates, as he has just completed the first step of the "I want to hold Runa's hand" operation, and then the boy explains that his plan consists of asking her to go for a boat ride, and if she tries to enter, he will hold her hand. And while he was traveling, Ryuuto simply wasn't paying any attention in class, so the teacher asks him to answer a question from the book, and Kuro's saves his ass, and tells him what the teacher was talking about. And when he sits down again, Kuro's asks him not to hate her, in that Ryuuto reassures her, and says he doesn't hate her, and the day of the date arrives, and Ryuuto tries to put into practice the plan of asking her to go sailing. However, she interrupts him, and gives him a lunch box she made exclusively for him, and when he takes off the lid, Runa appears to be worried about his opinion about her dish, but when he tries it, Ryuuto confirms that the food is good. And although he feels good about going out with her, the boy appears to be worried about something, and Runa notices this, but the two continue the date normally, until they pass the boats again, and then they decide to get on one. But when she goes to enter, the girl trips, and at that moment Ryuuto takes action, but he cannot hold her hand in time, and as they walk, Ryuuto tries to calm down, and tells himself that soon he will have another chance to hold the girl's hand. And after that, she comments that the boat ride was really fun, but when looking at him, she notices that Ryuuto seems to be upset about something, and then the boy finds himself in an internal conflict, because if he makes it clear that he wants to play her, Runa will notice his ulterior motives and will let him do whatever he wants. However, Ryuuto doesn't want things to be like that, as that would make him like her ex-boyfriends, and Runa asks him to be honest and say what's bothering him, and she explains that her boyfriends used to act like that for a short time before they break up with her. And upon hearing this, he states that he wasn't thinking about any of that, and Runa says that he had a very serious expression on his face, but he says again that he has no intention of breaking up with her, and he explains that in fact I was thinking about going boating with her one more time. And then she agrees to go boating again, but she suggests that they take a different boat, and he decides to be more active, and offers his hand to the girl to get on the boat, and in the middle of the ride, she comments that they were right to choose that boat so she could hold his hand. And she reveals that she had been thinking about doing this for a while, and that's why Runa was getting closer to him more than usual. And Ryuuto takes courage and says that he had also wanted this for a long time. And then she gets closer to him, and finally they kiss for the first time, and Runa reveals that she wants to get closer and like him more. And when it's time to get off the boat, the two hold hands again, and she asks them to hold hands for longer. And furthermore, she asks him to stop addressing her by her surname, instead she asks him to call her Runa. But he is surprised by this, as everything is happening very quickly, and when he tries to say her name, the boy starts to stutter, and she says she will wait for him to be able to say his name naturally. And she notices that his hand is very cold, and Ryuuto apologizes, and explains that he is very tense about that situation, and Runa says that if they had done the act that day, this shame would not exist. And she explains that all this embarrassment of kissing and holding hands for the first time can cause a certain embarrassment, but as she gets closer to him, Runa becomes more and more in love. And meanwhile, Kuros keeps thinking about Ryuuto and what he said that day, and her conclusion is that she must be like Runa, so that she can take Ryuuto from his sister. Ryuuto and Runa meet to study English, and the boy teaches her a phrase, but she says she doesn't understand the phrase, so he translates it as, "the last man to lie," and explains that this phrase talks about an honest person who doesn't lie. And then Runa says that that phrase is talking about himself, and she explains that even if all the boys cheated on their girlfriends, she believes that he would remain faithful, and upon hearing this, the boy is filled with shame and decides to move on to the next one. And after studying, Runa comments that next Saturday it will be a month since they've been dating, and to celebrate this she suggests that they go to the beach, so he starts to imagine her in swimwear, and although he was uncomfortable with the idea, he accepts. And the next day, she gets a good grade on the English test, and thanks him for the help he gave. But when looking at the grade he got, Runa considers him a genius, and when talking to his friends, Ryuuto discovers that they were also thinking about enjoying the summer, because like Ryuuto, they had gotten good grades. And after that, the boy is stopped by Kuros, and she asks him to help her study English, but he explains that he had already promised to help Runa with her studies, so she asks him to teach her during the summer holidays, so Runa's studies will not be compromised. And the girl says that she is also terrible at mathematics, and that's why she would need his help. But Ryuuto tries to shift this responsibility onto Ichi's shoulders, and he explains that his friend understands this subject more than he does. And then she asks Ryuuto to pass her lime to her, but he makes it clear that he won't send her a message, and after leaving school, Kuroz sends him a message, and asks Ryuuto to help her with her studies, but he make up an excuse. And then Kuroz asks when he will be free, but before he can answer, Runa appears there, so they can go to the beach, and when they get there, the girl puts on her bathing suit, which Ryuuto goes crazy, as he still doesn't believe it. Who has a girlfriend as beautiful as her? But when she sees him like that, Runa questions if she looks strange, and he says no. But when Ryuuto tries to say what he was really thinking, his face starts to turn red, and Runa immediately understands that he is enjoying seeing her in a bikini. Then she pulls him closer to the sea, and asks him to put sunscreen on her. But when doing so, Ryuuto remains restrained, but she gives him permission to take off her bikini, so he can spread the sunscreen more conveniently. And when he does this, the girl starts to laugh, and says that the way he touches her tickles, and after applying the protector, Runa thanks him for the help. But he thanks her back, and the girl doesn't understand why he is grateful, so Ryuuto decides to leave this story alone. And then he starts to observe the couples around, and feels envious of the other guys, because they treat the situation with the utmost naturalness, and well, she asks him to get into the water, and after that they go back to the tent and chat out, until Ryuuto decides to take courage, and comments that Runa's bikini looks really good on her. And upon hearing this, the girl is embarrassed, and says that she didn't imagine hearing something like that so late, but she thanks him for the compliment, and explains that she tried on at least 30 different bikinis, until Yamana started to lose patience with her indecision. But when she said she was getting ready to go to the beach with him, her friend stopped complaining and even helped Runa with her nails, and well, the weather suddenly starts to close, and then they call their parents and tell them that they are going to spend the night in a hotel, because of the rain. However, the receptionist explains that if they were to stay in separate rooms, they would have to pay 5,000 yen each, but if it is in the same room, they only pay 6,000, so the two decide to stay in the same room. And then Runa goes to take a shower, and in the meantime he is desperate about the situation, as he will spend a night in the same room as her, and he wonders what she meant by that, could be from before. And in his mind, he keeps imagining several meanings for that phrase, and well, Runa comes out of the shower, and catches him doing some sit-ups, and then she asks to touch his belly, but he doesn't let her, because he's very tense. And when she sees that he's uncomfortable, she apologizes, and suggests that he go take a shower too, which he does, and then he reflects on what just happened, and he wonders what she meant by that request of apology. And well, after getting out of the shower, he carefully observes the bed in which they are going to sleep, whereupon Runa offers him a drink, and he stares at her non-stop. But the girl is embarrassed, as he is looking at her without makeup. And seeing her like that, Ryuuto feels that she reminds him a little of Kuroz, and speaking of her, he remembers that he still hasn't responded to the message she sent earlier, and while he was thinking about something else, Runa thought that Ryuuto was still noticing her face without makeup. So to reassure her, he says that she looks younger and cuter when she's without makeup, and well, he decides to turn off the lights so they can go to sleep. But Ryuuto feels like it's going to be difficult to fall asleep, and Runa notices that he appears to be very tense, so to end it once and for all, she calls him to go to the finals, but he says that she doesn't seem to feel like doing that. And Runa confesses that she really isn't, but she doesn't want him to hold back, and Ryuuto explains that by doing that she would just be supporting him, and not having fun with him. However, Runa makes it clear that this would not be a burden for her, as she also likes him, and the girl explains that many of her boyfriends never aroused an intimate interest in her, but when Runa was on the boat with him, she felt a genuine desire to kiss him, and with that she concludes that she likes him more now than she did a month ago. And following this logic, she believes that she will like him more and more as time passes, and so Runa feels that if she goes to bed with him, she will feel pleasure both in her body and in her heart, and she claims to be looking forward to it. And then he decides that the best thing to do is for them to sleep and wait for the day when Runa really feels like it too, so the girl questions why he is so kind to her, and he replies that it is because he likes her. And then Runa asks him to hug her, and when he does, she comments that he makes her relax with his warmth, and the girl asks them to do it again when they've been dating for 2 months. And meanwhile, Kurose continues to be distressed the fact that his sister is dating the boy she has a crush on, and well, the next day Ryuuto accompanies his girlfriend to her house and returns home, and on the way he remembers that night. Until suddenly Yamana stops him on the street, and takes the boy to eat at her work, and then she asks how things are going with Runa, and he replies that everything is fine, to which she explains that Runa is a very clingy girl, and she wonders if he doesn't think that's too bad. However, he responds that he is happy with that, after all it is a sign that she is thinking about him, and Yamana says that this is the right thing to think, because that is what being in a relationship means. And she comments that Runa's ex-boyfriends were rubbish, because they always complained about her, calling her a burden and annoying, and for them the fact that she was very clingy was almost a curse. In this, Yamana explains that there must be a balance in their feelings, so that their relationship remains healthy, and she explains about Runa having something called the 2-month barrier, because in several of her relationships, her ex-boyfriends cheated on her before they had been dating for 2 months, and when that wasn't the case, they turned cold and broke up with her before 2 months, and although Runa trusts him, she is probably insecure with the 2-month barrier. And then Yamana asks him not to do anything that makes her suspicious about this barrier, so Ryuuto promises that he won't do anything that makes her insecure, and on the way home, he remembers her again, and understands that Runa was worried about their relationship. And well, his cell phone rings, and when he looks at who it was, he notices that it's Kurosa's contact, but Runa is the one answering, and the girl explains that she's at her mother's house right now, and in addition, she says that he talked to his sister about some things, and now she wants to talk to him at school too. Then Ryuuto says that he is sleepy, but the girl insists, and says that she needs to talk to him urgently, and upon arriving at the designated place, she reveals that she wants to do those things with him, but the real Runa was actually in-house. And she invites him to school, and when they meet at the warehouse, she starts with the strange talk that she wanted to get mad at him, and he finds it strange that she changed her mind in just 1 day. But even so, she continues to approaching him with this idea. And when she hugs Ryuuto, he discovers that the girl is not Runa but Kurose, and in addition he also realizes that she was the one who was talking to him on the phone all this time. So she decides to reveal her identity straight away, and Ryuuto questions why she did that, and Kurose says that she just wants to do that with him, and besides, she says that she can give him her first time, unlike her sister, who has already been with other guys. And Kurose promises that if they do, she won't tell anyone, but he says that won't happen, as he doesn't want to do anything that would betray Runa, and besides, he explains that it wouldn't be fair to Kurose herself. And well, a school watchman notices a noise coming from the room they are in, and decides to check the place out, but they manage to escape in time and arrive at a park, and their Ryuuto wonders if Kurose had lured him there just to get revenge on Rune. And she says no, and claims that she only did all that because she liked him, and to be able to do those parades with him, she decided that the best thing to do would be to disguise herself as her sister, and the girl reveals that she started to liking him from the moment he scolded her for spreading rumors about Runa. And then Ryuuto questions why that was, and she says she doesn't know why, but Kurose believes she liked it because this was the first time someone had scolded her like that. And besides, she also admires the fact that he thought of Runa and her when he refused to go to the finals with the girl, and Kurose explains that even if he had managed to do that, she still wouldn't be Runa. And she also says that she knew this was wrong, but the fact that she started to like him a lot left her blind and not knowing what to do. And the girl reveals that it was the first time she fell in love with someone and is rejected. And because of this, she begins to understand how he felt when he was rejected by her at that time. And then she apologizes to him for making him suffer, in which he finds himself not knowing what to do, because being kind to her it will only hurt your feelings more. And then Kurose holds his hand, and asks them to stay like that just for that night, and well, the next day Ryuuto shows that he is worried about Runa's sister, because she didn't say anything else before going home, and so talking about her, he remembers having promised Yamana that he wouldn't do anything that would make Runa insecure. And so he decides it's time to settle this Kurose thing once and for all, and Ryuuto feels like he should tell Runa that her sister was the girl he asked to be his girlfriend in middle school. And upon arriving in the room, his friends explain that everyone is calling him a traitor as he had been with Kuro's the day before, and upon hearing this, Ryuuto doesn't understand anything, and then Nishi shows a photo of the two of them sitting in the room. Bank, and he says that everyone was spreading this photo last night. And when the girl enters the room, Ryuuto questions her about it, and the girl states that she would have no reason to spread any rumors about the two of them. After all, she was rejected by him that day, but she commits to helping him deny these rumors. And in addition, she also says that she will no longer maintain contact with him, so as not to jeopardize their relationship. And well, the bell rings and Ryuuto starts to walk away to drive to the classroom, and Kuro's catches his eye again and says that if she had accepted his dating proposal back then, maybe she would be the girl who would be by his side now, but she decides to let those thoughts go. Then Runa and Yamana appear behind them, and she comments that she found out about Kuro's being the girl who had rejected her, and Ryuuto apologizes out of nowhere, and this makes Runa suspicious, but the suspicion increases even more when Kuro's leaves the place. Then Runa questions why he broke her trust, but before he can explain himself she runs away, and Yamana slaps him in the face, calling him a piece of shit. And after that, he spends his day thinking about this outcome of their relationship, and he wonders what he should have done to prevent Runa from crying. And well, he explains that all this happened made his summer vacation colorless, and he reports that he sent messages to Runa every day, hoping to resolve this misunderstanding, but she didn't read any of his messages. And that's why he ended up going to his house a few times, but because he was a coward he never managed to press the doorbell. So Ryuuto decided to just dedicate himself to studying during his vacation. And after class, he and his friends go to the beach, and Ryuuto wonders if there was any plausible reason for them to be there, and Ichi just complains about his hunger, so the three decide to go to a restaurant. And the next day, Ryuuto continues to think about his relationship until one of his friends sends him a photo of Runa with another guy, and upon seeing this, Ryuuto runs out of the room, and he remembers that she was always very understanding with him, and always put his feelings first. And because of that, he feels bad for having made her feel that way. And as for his friend, he informs her that Runa is in a restaurant called Luna Marine, and when he gets close to the place, he notices that the guy from photo is right there. And then the girls ask to take a photo with him, but the boy asks them to be quick, as he needs to get back to work, and then he notices Ryuuto at the door of the establishment and goes to help him, so he takes courage and tells the Rune who has something to say to her. And upon hearing this, the boy who works at the restaurant comments that Runa was talking about him, and then he introduces himself as Runa's uncle, and well, Yamana asks what he came to do there, and Mao asks the girl to calm down, because Ryuuto made an effort to go there in this heat. Besides, he reminds her that Yamana has to go to work now. And after the girl leaves, they are finally alone, and the boy explains that the day they returned from the beach, Kuro's had declared herself to him, but he makes it clear that he refused her, as he was already in a relationship. However, the girl started crying and approaching him, and it was at that moment that someone took that photo, and Ryuuto confesses that he really did something to make her feel insecure, and then he apologizes for that. Then Runa also apologizes to him, and says that she really doesn't think he's like her ex-boyfriends. Besides, Runa says she understands why her sister likes him, and she explains that deep down Kuro's is sensitive and pure, so if she declared herself to him, it was certainly a sincere feeling. And well, Runa wonders if he stayed with his sister while she was crying, and Ryuuto replies yes, and says that was very reckless of him. But Runa understands him, and explains that he was just being kind to Kuro's, just like he always is to her. And because he didn't abandon his sister, that makes her happy. And then Ryuuto questions why he couldn't talk to her all this time, and Runa says that her cell phone was broken, because she dropped it, and only now would she have taken the device for repair. And upon hearing this, he realizes that she wasn't mad at him, and Runa reveals that she didn't talk to him either because she was afraid to ask about Kuro's, as she was afraid of finding out if she was being cheated on or not, because at the end of the day she wanted to remain his girlfriend. And well, she changes the subject and asks how he found out that they were in that place. Then the scene cuts to those responsible for leaking the information. And after their conversation at the restaurant, Ryuuto is taken to meet Runa's grandmother, and the guy is already tense, so Mao suggests that he take a shower and spend the night there. And then Runa apologizes for her uncle being so warm, and she introduces that lady as Vo Seo, her mother's mother, and well, Runa asks if he has plans to stay with her for the rest of the summer, and he says that yes. Then the girl asks him to stay there with her until she returns to her house. And she explains that they can work at Luna Marine and enjoy the beach. But she also talks about a festival that will take place, to make their summer even better, and Ryuuto agrees to stay there, as he is unable to resist a request made for her. Ryuuto dreams of a calm day at the beach, until Runa goes to wake him up and he gets all shy, and realizes that the peace in his dream was real, because the boy will spend the whole summer with Runa. And well, they go to work, and Ryuuto is already having trouble serving the customer, so she goes there to help him. And after a few hours of work, he decides to take a break to study. But two strange guys appear there, and when analyzing them, Ryuuto realizes that they are both extroverted and good at talking. Then they start hitting on Runa, and Ryuuto goes there to help them, to take their focus off his girlfriend, but the guys decide to leave and say they will come back later to talk to her. But before leaving the establishment, one of the guys asks who she prefers between the two. Then Runa hugs Ryuuto and says that she prefers him because he is her boyfriend, and upon hearing this, the guys leave disappointed, and she comments to Ryuuto that she hates guys like that, and then he apologizes for not having intervened sooner. However, she tells him not to worry as she is happy to have him by her side. And Runa also comments that he is very committed to his studies, and because of this she believes that Ryuuto will enter an excellent college, and speaking of which, she says that her friend Nicole wants to enroll in a manicure school after graduating from high school, to have a certification. But as her mother is single, she is unable to pay for her studies, and that's why the girl lives working, to save money for her tuition, while Akari, she intends to go to a fashion school. In this Ryuuto questions what Runa intends to do after high school, and she reveals that she is aimless, as her main objective has already been achieved, which in this case was to develop mutual feelings with someone who she believes will be by her side forever. And she explains that her biggest dream has always been to return to live with her parents and Maria, but as that is something very difficult to happen, she decided to build her own family. And Runa comments on her dream of being a mother and to have a husband with whom she would always be in love. However, when she says these things, she blushes, as she believes she is already exaggerating, and Ryuuto notices that Runa had already thought much more about the future than he had. And so after taking a shower, he decides to take his studies for the entrance exam more seriously, and well, he goes to Runa, and sees her desperate because the potatoes are gone, and she explains that she was planning to prepare a surprise dish for him. Then Runa decides to go out to buy potatoes, and Ryuuto proposes to accompany her, and on the way back from the market, he carries the shopping. But Runa complains about this, because if he carries all the shopping they won't be able to hold hands. And then she takes one of the bags and gives him her hand. And arriving home, the two go to the kitchen, where the girl notices that in addition to going to the market together, they are also cooking together. And she comments that these are activities that a couple usually does. And after finishing the food, Runa gives him the potato, and she comments that dating someone is cooler than she imagined, and meanwhile Maria returns home, and her mother says that Grandma Seo called there, she asks when they would visit her. And then she asks Maria if they could come visit her during the summer festival, and her daughter confirms that yes, and she reveals that Runa is also there, and accompanied by a class friend. And upon hearing this, Maria makes an excuse and says that she won't be able to go see her grandmother as she planned to meet her friend the same week as the festival, and then Runa finds out that her mother and Maria aren't they go to see her, and she feels like her sister is avoiding her. And well, she explains that last year she couldn't go to the festival either, so Runa didn't see her sister for 2 long years, until the day they met again at school. And Runa explains that with separation from her mother, Maria left the private girls' school and ended up at their school. And she suggests that for Maria, it must be really bad to be at the same school and in the same class as her, and that's why she decided to just tell Nicole that Maria was her younger sister, and then Runa tells her that she and her sister have always had very different personalities, but regardless, she says she likes her. At this Runa questions whether it will be very difficult to get along with her sister, and Ryuuto responds that Maria still needs time for herself, but he believes that she can understand what Runa feels about her, and upon hearing this, she feels more determined, and asks if he could be Maria's friend alongside her. And then he doesn't understand what she's getting at, and Runa explains that if she's too direct, her sister will probably reject her, so she wants to approach her as a friend first. So he asks if she intends to become Maria's friend without let no one find out that they are sisters. And Runa says yes, and calls it the friendship project, where she will gradually get closer, and then manage to go out with her sister again. And while they talk, Mao finally returns and brings Runa's cell phone of the repair. And when she sees what's happening on the internet again, she comes across a dance meme, and decides to ask Ryuuto to record with her, and well, the next day Mao delivers a paycheck to Ryuuto, on behalf of both of them. Weeks worked. However, the boy refuses, and says that he was already living there for free. And then Mao explains that he also managed to benefit from Ryuuto's work. After all, he had more time to work as a writer, so he accepts the money. And Mao comments that that day marks 2 months of his relationship with his niece, and he suggests that Ryuuto use this money to give Runa a gift at that night's festival. So the boy goes out to buy something for her, and upon returning home, he comes across Runa dressed in a yukata, and he says that she looks very beautiful like that. And Runa says that they also prepared a yukata for him, and then they go to the festival and enjoy the attractions, until they stop in line to buy love apples, and Runa briefly leaves the line to take a look in the rings, but there were no more units of the ring she wanted. The girl leaves this story aside, and as she walks a little further with Ryuuto, the boy reveals that this is his first time going to a festival of this kind, and he comments on what they ate at that festival, and this reminds him of from the bubble tea he first drank on their first date. And well, Runa says that the first thing her father bought for her mother was a love apple, and when she remembers this, she comments on a dream she had, which was to marry her first boyfriend as well as your mother did. And when she sees him enjoying it as his first time, she says she feels sad, because it's not her first time. And Runa says that everything would be better if they were both having their first experience as a couple. And although she is happy to have provided several first experiences for him, she feels sad that she can't have any first experiences with him, and Ryuuto explains that if her feelings for him are different, then that will be a unique experience. And that's enough to make you happy. And he gives some examples of things they did together, like having bubble tea and going boating, in which he feels he takes a ring and presents it to her, as a way of celebrating their 2 months of dating. And upon seeing which ring it would be, Runa realizes that it is the same ring that she wanted from the beginning, and Ryuuto says that he knows that it is not enough to pay for everything that Runa shared with him, but the girl disputes him, and says that that ring is more than enough, and she claims that meeting him was the best gift she ever received. And well, Ryuuto proposes that they start doing more different things from now on, because as they lived in different worlds until they started dating, there are certainly a lot of new things they can do together. Then the fireworks start to explode in the sky, and Runa hugs Ryuuto, so they can watch the fireworks together, and then she explains that if her passion for him continues to increase like this, they will finally be able to do those things with her. Being truly into it, the two end that night with a kiss, while fireworks explode in the skies. The next day, Ryuuto goes to class, and notices Runa running after Maria, and he remembers her asking him to help her get closer to her sister, and then he deduces that the friendship project has not yet had good results. And during the break, Ryuuto wonders if his friends will be free on Saturday, as he wants to do something different with his girlfriend, and when the day arrives, the three go out with Runa and her friends. And Ryuuto comments to his girlfriend that it's dangerous to show your body so much. Yamana challenges him and says that an extrovert can't be without showing off, and in the meantime Akari goes to Nishi to talk to him, and Yamana comments that they must understand well how that game works, and it says count on them. And as for Runa, she claims that she will hit Ryuuto's heart with a critical attack, but when pointing the gun at him Ryuuto mentally reflects on her having already hit his heart a long time ago. And upon seeing him doing well, his friends watch him with a look of envy, so Yamana goes to them and asks if she wasn't enough for the boys. Ryuuto's friends start targeting him, but the first to be defeated is Nishi, and then Ichi promises to avenge his friend, but Akari tries to attack him first, but the boy manages to avoid all the bullets. Then Ryuuto goes up and manages to defeat him, and then Yamana tries to shoot Runa, but he gets in front and is defeated in her place, and meanwhile Akari is defeated too, and so Runa ends up being the last of the team. His team, then the game unfolds a little more, and Yamana ends up defeated due to lack of bullets. And after the game, Ichi regrets not being able to defeat Ryuuto, and Runa goes there to thank him for protecting her, and meanwhile Yamana cuts her nails to make it easier to shoot. And when the second round of the game begins, everyone is quickly eliminated by her, and then they prepare to leave. But Runa comments that her earring is missing, and Yamana explains that that earring is very important to her, as Runa doesn't even have her earring. Take it to school to avoid confiscation. And upon hearing this, everyone sets out to look for the earring, but she finds it thrown in her bag, and upon seeing that earring, Ryuuto feels that he should have noticed it, as it is very important to her. And well, everyone goes to a restaurant, and Akari comments that this survival game was a lot of fun, and Ichi gets emotional and starts saying a lot of nerdy things about compressed air guns. And then Ryuuto begins to despair at seeing his friend talking like that, but Akari manages to understand him and continues to encourage the conversation, and Yamana reveals that Akari is very otaku, and the girl claims to be a Vanilla Voice fanatic. Then she starts talking about this band and leaves everyone traveling, and Yamana says she's a nail decorating otaku, and then she starts talking non-stop about it, and Runa feels envious that her friends have something they like so much. However, Yamana says that she also has something she likes, in this case it is Ryuuto, and she comments that Runa has already shown off a lot today with her boyfriend, and that is hard for single girls, and upon hearing this, Nishi understands that a cool girl doesn't have a boyfriend. But Yamana says she doesn't have the mind to think about relationships for now, as she still hasn't forgotten her ex, and she tells of a time when she asked him what he was listening to on his headphones, and the boy said he was listening to sutras. Buddhists, and upon hearing this, Nishi comments that this is the height of teenage angst. And Yamana confirms that this indeed sounds ridiculous, but he would have been the only person she truly liked even if the relationship only lasted 2 weeks. And Nishi whispers low, disdaining that their relationship lasts so little, but Yamana hears him and steps on his foot, and meanwhile, Akari comments that she would like to go out with a tall guy, and upon hearing this Ichi already feels confident, and Akari questions how tall he is. And the boy replies that he is 1.81, and Akari gets excited and says that this is the same height as a guy she admires, called Lee Jun, and well, everyone leaves, leaving Ryuuto and Runa alone again. And then he asks what she will do, and Runa says that she is still free, and suggests that they spend more time together, so they go to an amusement park and get on a Ferris wheel. And when he sees her, he feels like kissing her again, and Runa comments on a shoujo manga that she had read a while ago, and in that manga the protagonist and his girlfriend eat chocolate confections on a Ferris wheel, and then kiss. And to Runa, this story sounded very mature when she read it in elementary school, and although they don't have the chocolate sprinkles, Runa claims they could still kiss. And after doing so, she asks what taste he felt, and Ryuuto says he tasted peach, and then she states that she actually bought a lipstick tint that smells like peach tea, but he says he doesn't know what that is. And Runa explains that lip tint is a type of lipstick, and well, she lies down on his chest and asks Ryuuto to stroke her head, and so their afternoon on the Ferris wheel comes to an end, and Runa comments that that afternoon they spent together was very fun. And then she stops momentarily, and says she is very happy that they are almost 3 months into their relationship and also that they are doing new things together. And then Ryuuto asks what they could do when they complete 3 months of dating. And she responds that they don't need to celebrate anything else, because she already feels very happy to have him by her side every day, and that's why she ended up realizing that every day is special for her, because this time Runa really is in love for someone. And well, Ryuuto reflects on this moment and says internally that he wants to accompany her, regardless of which direction she is going, and because she is always thinking about their future, Ryuuto aims to become a man worthy of having her. And for this to be possible, the only thing he can do at the moment is to study with all his strength. And in addition he also aims to stop being a virgin at some point, but he turns his focus to the course. But upon arriving in the room, Maria appears soon after, and Ryuuto hides under the desk and starts to crawl to the door, whereupon a guy named Sakiya appears there and saves him from being seen, and he reveals himself to be a student who did not pass the entrance exams. And then Ryuuto questions why he helped him, and Sakiya counters the question, and asks if that girl was some kind of stalker or something, and Ryuuto shows a little fear of talking about it, but he remembers that was saved by Sakiya. And then he talks about that girl being the first to hurt his heart, and besides, that girl is still his current girlfriend's younger sister, and upon finding out about everything, Sakiya questions what he intends to do to her. Respect. And Ryuuto says he will continue hiding until the end of the exams, as he doesn't want to make his girlfriend worry. After all, he had promised not to be close to Maria, but that all went down the drain from the moment they were doing it. The same course. And then Sakiya proposes to help him, and says that whenever he sees her, he will inform him of her location so that he can stay away. So he asks Ryuuto to give him his lime, and he explains that this situation can make you lose concentration during your studies, but he advises you to stay focused, as there is nothing sadder than not passing the entrance exam. And well, already at school, they are informed about the sports festival that will take place in October, and because of this they will need to start planning the cultural festival in November at the same time. So one of the representatives asks those interested to raise their hands. And then Maria proposes to help, and then Runa raises her hand and says she is another volunteer, and upon seeing this, Ryuuto feels that the friendship project is finally going to begin. The teacher thanks Runa for her willingness to help, and asks if anyone else also wants to participate in the event, so Akari decides to go along to follow her friend, and then she tries to call Nicole too, but she says she can't, because of her work. And with that, only Ryuuto was left, and he decides to participate too, and the teacher says that she still needs one more student, so Ryuuto raises his hand and suggests that Ichi also participate in the event, and when he sees that Akari will participate in this, he ends up accepting. And well, one of the students explains that within a few days the teacher responsible for the event will contact all participants to provide the schedule. And then Akari regrets seeing Ryuuto and Runa on the pamphlet committee because that way they are separated, and she says that she had a lot of fun with that survival game they participated in earlier, and Akari asks Ichi to call her again to do it. And as for Ryuuto's group, he ended up staying with Runa and Maria, that is, the friendship plan was already heading toward success, and then he comments that because they were in the same class, it would be strange for them to introduce themselves, so he and Runa say they are counting on everyone's collaboration. However, Maria doesn't seem very comfortable being in that group, and Ryuuto has the idea of looking at the old pamphlets, to get a general idea of what their work will be like, and while reading the material he explains that that year's theme is, for the future, so they should think of something futuristic. And then Runa asks what Maria likes now, but she doesn't understand what exactly she's asking, and she explains that she's talking about hobbies and things like that, and Maria says she likes watching videos. And then Runa asks if she saw the new video of the Odatamite from that other school, and in addition, she starts talking very excitedly about several other influencers, but Maria didn't know most of these people she mentioned and is lost. Then Ryuuto asks what types of videos she usually watches, and she says that she likes light games, and then he deduces that she knows Ken, and Maria clearly knows him, as she follows the lives he does of her favorite games. And upon hearing this, Ryuuto gets excited and asks if she is following the series 62 creating, and she says no, as she is not a big fan of the kids' live streams that are exclusive to subscribers. After all, she feels excluded from these lives. But Ryuuto claims that this doesn't happen, as normally it's only Ken who speaks, and that's why Liv ends up being fun when she gets to know the kids better, and then he starts to get excited about the subject and leaves Runa traveling. And well, he goes to math class, and Sakiya calls him to talk about Maria and the problems he has been facing because of her, and after explaining everything that happened, Sakiya understands that he is indeed in a complicated situation. Then Ryuuto asks if he is popular among girls, and Sakiya says yes, because when he was in high school he went out with several girls, and because of that he ended up becoming a Ronin who didn't care about his studies, but he understands the point. Because it got to that point, after all he was the popular one at school, And Sakiya says that he once became the champion of the regional ping pong club tournament, but at that time he didn't consider himself so attractive, but he still had a girl who thought he was handsome, and Ryuuto asks what is history with this girl. And Sakiya says that he dated her a little after graduation, and it was she who told him to change his hairstyle, and after following her tips, he found himself becoming a popular guy, and Ryuuto wonders if it was at that moment that he started picking up several girls. And he answers no, but that was still a terrible moment for his girlfriend, and well, the next day Ryuuto tries to get everyone in the group excited, so that everyone can create the pamphlets efficiently, and Runa presents her general visual concept, which consists of leaving the flyers with vibrant and cute colors, because for her, the festival calls for more colors and glamour. However, Maria says she has some reservations about Runa's ideas, and she says that the cultural festival cannot only have feminine colors, after all there will be boys participating in the event too, and that's why they should use a more discreet design that won't let anyone bother. Furthermore, having a neutral color conveys a more looking to the future feeling, but Runa disputes this idea, and says that they are still in high school, so a little cuteness wouldn't hurt anyone, and she understands that your pamphlet conveys the idea of a bright future. And upon listening to the two's arguments, Ryuuto notes that they came prepared to defend their ideas, and then Runa asks what his view is regarding their pamphlets, and in his mind he understands that Maria's idea is the most correct, but to avoid getting upset with his girlfriend, he says he still doesn't have an opinion about it. And then he goes to the teacher's room and explains his situation, and the teacher says that their having opposing opinions will be a problem for the project, so they should get it together soon, so that they can print the pamphlet as soon as possible. And she explains that with sports day approaching, everyone will probably be busy, plus they will have a meeting with the supplier right after sports day, and so the teacher gives them until that date to decide on their pamphlet. And upon returning home he remains confused about this, as this issue is more difficult to resolve than his teacher thinks, and well, after leaving the train, he meets Maria on the way, and she says that she was returning from course, just like him. And Ryuuto explains that he had stopped by a bookstore with a large stock, as he was looking for better study guides. Then a silence begins, and he breaks this strange atmosphere by asking if her house is also in that direction. And she says yes, and explains that she had to go back to live there after her mother's second divorce, and in addition, she also had to move to his school for the same reason, as her stepfather paid the private school's tuition that she studied, but as she was no longer his daughter after the divorce, he no longer had the obligation to pay for her schooling. And Maria says that she chose his school because it was cheaper, but she makes it clear that there is something strange in her decision. After all, if the problem was just the price of the school's tuition, she could move to another random school, but instead, she chose to study at the same school as Runa. And Ryuuto believes she only did it to spite her, but she claims that's not what motivated her, even though she actually felt resentful towards Runa. However, Maria states that the real reason that made her move to this specific school was her desire to make her sister happy, as Runa likes surprises, and because he is her boyfriend he must already know that. And then Maria confesses that she already said horrible things about her sister, but she still felt that a part of her still depended on Runa, and that's why she believes that her sister would forgive her for her mistakes. And upon hearing this, Ryuuto remembers when he acted like Maria because he took advantage of Runa's kindness when he believed she would forgive him. And well, Maria thought that if Runa saw her entering the room out of nowhere, she would certainly be surprised and happy and would introduce her to everyone as her sister, but instead, she just stared at her with a look confused on the face. And then Ryuuto questions whether it was this reaction from Runa that triggered all of Maria's other actions, and upon hearing this, she just confesses that she only did nonsense with her and Ryuuto, but thanks to that she stopped trying to pretend to be someone she isn't. And little by little she felt herself returning to being the Maria she always was at her previous school. And then Ryuuto notices that the discomfort I felt when being next to her finally disappeared. After all, she also seems to care a lot about Runa, and he feels that now they could perhaps be friends. And well, they take the train, and when they disembark, Ryuuto asks if she always comes home late, and she says yes, because Maria usually studies alone after class every day, and seeing that it's already very late he decides he proposes to accompany her to her house. But she says she doesn't need to, besides, he's not her boyfriend either, and upon hearing this he ends up tripping and leaving his notebooks on display, and then she sees the K preparatory school notebook, and he doesn't react to this discovery of hers, but Maria makes it clear that she already knew that he frequented the same place as her, and so she says goodbye to him. And on the way home, Maria feels that the best thing to do is to keep her distance from him, and Ryuuto talks to Runa about his sister, and she explains that they have very different tastes in everything, as she once gave an earring to Maria and she didn't like it. At this Ryuuto remembers the conversation he had with the girl, and he knows that Maria just has a hard time opening up to her sister, but after all, she also wants to be friends with Runa, and so he reassures his girlfriend, and says that everything will work out between them. What's more, Ryuuto reminds her that he promised to help her with the friendship project, and the next day, Sports Day arrives, and he describes that event as a party for extroverts, and Ryuuto explains that he only participated from this event until last year out of obligation. And upon seeing this, Runa quickened his pace so as not to be left behind, and after that they were informed that the treasure race, a famous afternoon event, was coming. And the event representative explains that the race is not just about speed, participants need to have luck on their side to come first, and after reading one of the papers on the table, Runa calls Ryuuto to continue the race. And he says he likes her, because the girl runs like a sports car, and that's why Ryuuto wants to run with her, regardless of where the girl goes, and so they come in first, and she says that they won together. Besides to this she comments about him rooting for her even when Runa was running alone. And then he's surprised that she could hear his screams from so far away, and Runa says she's happy to be running next to him, and well, she shows him the paper she read before, and there it was written for her to call someone she like it. And meanwhile, the girls dress up in cheerleader outfits, and Akari is impressed by how good Maria looks in that outfit, but the girl apologizes and says she didn't have the courage to participate in it when the teacher asked her to do so in class. However, Akari tells her to leave this matter aside, as the important thing now is for them to rock the event, and then Maria tells her that her mother will ask for time off from work to go and watch the event, and Akari asks if that was why she entered for the cheer team. And Maria remains silent, but as she does so she reveals that her friend's guess was right, and Maria says that it is indeed strange for a high school student to ask her mother something like that, but Akari says that it has nothing to do with it. Strange, because it makes sense that she would want her mother to see her in that beautiful outfit. And well, as they walk a little further, Maria sees her mother talking to Runa, and then she says that she forgot something and runs away, and their mother asks where Maria is, and says that she is there at her own request, because the girl trained hard to impress her. And she explains that she asked for time off from work precisely to attend the event, and Runa runs to look for her sister, so Ryuuto decides to help her, and he quickly finds Maria and says her mother wants to see her. Besides he shows surprise at having discovered that she is a cheerleader. And well, Maria explains that she was disappointed to see her mother with Runa because she was the one who called her, and that's why Maria wanted her mother's attention just for herself. And then she asks why Ryuuto went there. And he says that her mother is looking for her, and in addition he makes it clear that she left work to support her, but the girl is still afraid to return, as no one knows that she and Runa are sisters, and her mother believes that they get along well at school, but the story isn't quite there. After all, Maria did something stupid and cruel against Runa, and that's why she can't tell anyone that they are sisters. And she asks him to leave her alone. After all, in his mind he doesn't even care about her, but Ryuuto claims that he does care about her, and Maria asks if this concern is because she is Runa's sister, and he says that that's also part of it, but beyond that they are also companions. And then she reveals that she still likes him, and that's why Maria wants him to stay away, so that she doesn't end up liking him even more, and that's why she tells him to leave. And while she confesses, Runa stays behind the door listening everything, and Maria says that she understands what Ryuuto felt when he was rejected by her, and that's why she wants to avoid being rejected again. And Maria understands that the feeling she has for him is just hers and nothing else, and after that they return to the classroom, and one of the teachers places 2 posters in front of the group of pamphlets, so that they can decide which one they should use in the classroom festival. And then the teacher rushes them, and the teacher comments that if he were a high school student he would choose the most vibrant and bright poster, but the teacher suggests that they choose the most neutral poster, to please the boys and their parents as well. Ryuto's opinion is, and he again believes that the best option is Maria's choice, but he tries to choose carefully the words he will say when expressing which idea is better, and then Runa notices his nervousness, and he tells him to tell him what he thinks, and he decides to be honest and says he prefers the less flashy pamphlet. And after leaving school, Ryuuto apologizes to Runa for saying he preferred Maria's pamphlet, but she says he doesn't owe her an apology. After all, she doesn't want him to lie just to agree with her opinions. And then she says that Maria seems to suit him more than she does, because in addition to them both being intelligent, they had the same taste in the pamphlet, apart from their taste in gaming lives. And she explains that she was interested in him precisely because Ryuuto was different from her. But as they got closer, Runa discovered that they are in fact very different people, and for her, Ryuuto will soon get tired of her cool way. Furthermore, Runa feels that all the places and things they want to do are always opposites, and so she states that he will possibly be happier if he dates Maria instead of her, to which Runa comments that she saw him with Maria during the day of sports. But Ryuuto says he was just calming her down, and Runa understands him because he is always kind to everyone, and that's why he couldn't leave her alone, and although Runa had asked him to be kind to Maria, she started to feel badly, seeing her sister declaring her feelings to Ryuuto that day. And then, she wonders if they can continue dating even after all this has happened, and Ryuuto tries to calm her down, but Runa runs away and says she won't text him for a while. And then he tries to reach her, but ends up letting it go because Ryuuto doesn't even know what he would say to Runa if he reached her, and meanwhile, Maria calls Ryuuto an idiot because the right thing would be for him to have lied and supported her. Runa's pamphlet. And then she remembers when the two were playing, and Maria tells her sister to return her bear, but Runa says she only took it because Maria said she didn't want the toy anymore, and she explains that that bear was bought for her. And then Maria yells at Runa and tells her to return it quickly. So she returns it, and tells her sister to take better care of the bear this time. And back to the present, Maria comments that Runa has always been attentive and kind since she was a child, and therefore, she wants her sister to be very happy with Ryuuto. But Maria still feels reluctant to abandon her feelings for him. And the next day, Ryuuto delivers the new cover of his group's pamphlet, and the teacher comments that now they were able to better communicate the idea of the event in the pamphlet. But upon hearing this, Ryuuto remembers that it was true that they barely talked, because everyone worked individually on the project. And well, the teacher declares their work for the pamphlet committee closed, and finally, she congratulates him on his work, at which he leaves the room and feels he must tell them that their pamphlet was approved, and as he walks through the corridors, he finds Runa talking on the phone. And Ryuuto is surprised by the formality with which she talks to that person, so he tries to call her to find out who the person was, but Runa leaves him behind, and when she turns her back, he finds Yamana, and Ryuuto believes that he already knows what happened between him and Runa. And for this reason, he deduces that she knows who Runa was talking to on the phone, so she turns to him, and Ryuuto starts to apologize, and as for Yamana, she expresses her dissatisfaction with his actions. After all, she believed that Ryuuto would be able to make Runa happy without hurting her, but in the end, nothing worked. And well, Ryuuto leaves school, and on the way home he is approached by Akari, and she asks to talk to him about something, so the two of them go to a burger place, and she says that maybe Runa has a sugar daddy. And Ryuuto is surprised to hear this, because in his mind sugar daddy would be a younger man who gives money to a younger girl to go out with him, and Akari claims that she saw Runa with a middle-aged guy leaving a store. And in addition, she comments that the man was as tall and handsome as Youngwoo, and Ryuuto shows a photo of Runa's uncle, and asks if it was that guy, but Akari says it was another man, a little younger, and she deduces that the boy is a university student. And then Ryuuto questions whether a college student could be included in the sugar daddy category, and Akari says she doesn't know, but she believes that guy has a lot of money, because the bag Runa bought was very expensive. At this, Ryuuto feels a little down, and he asks if Akari really thinks she would be the type to date a sugar daddy, and she responds that Runa doesn't know how to say no to a pushy person, and that's why she might end up accepting go out with a guy like that. Furthermore, Akari says that she heard about things not being well between the two of them, and then she makes it clear that she is only telling him this because she is worried about Runa, and then he stands up and thanks her for her concern. Then he says who trusts Runa, so this would just be a misunderstanding. But Ryuuto claims that if something happened, he deserved it, as he is to blame for this temporary breakup, and so he calls Sakiya to ask him for a favor, and upon arriving at school, Ryuuto comments that the boy attracts a lot of female looks. But he gets distracted by something, and Ryuuto asks him to focus on the conversation, and Sakiya returns to the subject and says that he doesn't need much to accomplish this mission, he just needs the identity of that sugar daddy. However, Ryuuto makes it clear that the expression, sugar daddy, should be discarded for now. After all, they still don't know if this man actually supports Runa. Besides, he says he can't imagine her doing something like that. And upon hearing this, Sakiya says that it is more practical for him to speak directly to her, because if he asks which guy Runa was seeing that day, she would certainly tell him, and Ryuuto explains that if he could resolve things so easily I wouldn't have asked for his help. And well, Akari appears there, and points to Sakiya, stating that this was the man who was with Runa that day, and then the boy is surprised, and asks if his girlfriend would be Shirakawa Runa, and Ryuuto enters into shock, and wonders if he was one of her ex-boyfriends. And after that, the two sit down to talk, and Ryuuto he states that he didn't want to have met one of his girlfriend's exes, as that would naturally make him very angry, but the situation gets even worse when he discovers that the ex in question is a deviant like Sakiya. However, the boy tries to explain that things aren't quite like that because Runa was never his ex, she was just a friend of his ex-girlfriend, and in the meantime, the employee brings them a drink. And Sakiya says that if Ryuuto doesn't want to believe him, he just needs to ask his ex-girlfriend. After all, she studies at that school, and in the meantime, Yamana goes to Runa to try to lift the girl's spirits, especially because they are at the cultural festival, and they should take advantage. And well, Sakiya reveals that his ex-girlfriend was Yamana herself, and then Ryuuto notes that he was the boyfriend who dated Yamana for just 2 weeks, and the boy confirms that he was. Then Ryuuto wonders if he also listened to Buddhist sutras full of teenage angst, and the boy asks him not to talk out loud about his shameful past. And then Ryuuto asks why he found Runa, and he explains that it all started by coincidence, as she called him to talk while Sakiya went to the course, but he was out of time, as he had an interview scheduled, and when he refused, Runa would have asked for his phone number, so the two could talk at another time. And because she seemed to really want to talk to him, Sakiya ended up giving her his number, and then they talked on the phone just as Ryuuto was listening. And when they met, she would have started talking about Yamana and asked him to meet her to surprise her. However, Sakiya states that everything is over between them, and Ryuuto explains that Yamana still thinks about him. But he says he couldn't see her anymore, because the boy would have broken up with her to go out with other girls, so Sakiya wouldn't have the morals to date her again. Furthermore, he explains that she was the only one who liked him even when he was a dull guy, and on the other hand, she was a reserved girl, and only became what she is today because of their breakup. And Sakiya reports that at that time her parents were also going through a difficult divorce, and instead of supporting her, he abandoned her, and gave a terrible excuse for doing so. And then Ryuuto says that he actually hurt Yamana, however, he believes there must be a way for her to forgive these wounds and the past. Furthermore, he states that if they still have feelings for each other, this is the time for them to get back together, and Ryuuto asks the two of them to meet once again, and upon hearing this advice, Sakiya calls him a love guru, but Ryuuto says that's not the point. And well, his friends appear there, and show that they are worried about Runa and Yamana, so Ryuuto hurries to find them, and he calls Sakiya to go with them, and meanwhile, two boys harass the two, trying to force them to stay with them. And then they try to disperse them, but one of the boys gets in front of them, so Ryuuto goes there and gets Runa out of trouble, but Yamana stays behind, and the boy says that she will be the one to kiss him. But in this case, at that moment, Sakiya touches his shoulder and tells him to get out of there, because that girl is his girlfriend. And when he takes her out of that situation, she asks why he did that, and he just apologizes for the delay and hugs her, and then the three watch them from afar, and Nishi states that there's no way Yamana can compete with that guy of the Buddhist sutra. And upon seeing this, Ichi feels confident, and decides to declare himself to Akari too, and then he actually does it. But the girl says that she doesn't even know him well, besides that she wouldn't accept him anyway, so she asks him several questions, and asks if he just liked his appearance, because if that's all, she would also have to like him just for his appearance. And she explains that a declaration of love should only serve to confirm a mutual feeling, so he shouldn't go out declaring himself to anyone just to see what happens, and then she understands that it must hurt for him to be rejected. But Akari also feels it hurts when she rejects someone. After all, she is aware that rejection will destroy the person who is right in front of her. And upon hearing this, he falls to his knees on the floor, and Runa apologizes for Akari, and explains that she is always single, because the girl takes dating and relationships very seriously, and for her, a relationship must be built little by little, and not in this sudden way. And after that, Ichi regrets that he is failing in the game of his youth, but Nishi says that he was still lucky to be able to declare himself, unlike him who already lost Yamana to the handsome guy who listened to Buddhist sutras. In this, Ichi states that Ryuuto is a very lucky guy because the same girl he was in love. And on another day, the two meet in Ikebukuro, and Runa comments that she is happy to see him, even if he has to go to cram school soon. And then the two talk about the meeting Nicole would have with Sakiya that day. And Runa comments that her friend had said she would go all out that night. And upon hearing this, Ryuuto questions whether she was talking about doing adult things, and Runa states that it really is. After all, she has been thinking about him for over 3 years, so it is natural that she cannot contain herself. And Runa is happy to see her friend like this. And then she remembers Ichi and says that she hasn't seen him at school since that one he took from Akari, and Ryuuto explains that taking that ice completely devastated him, and now he's just in his room seeking comfort in games. And then Runa worries, and hopes that they can go out together again. And as they go for a walk, Ryuuto says that he would like to do something new, just the two of them, and that it would be similar to the survival game. But Runa asks him not to worry about this, as he is now busy with the simulations. But she makes him aware that if she has an idea of something they can do, she will let him know. And after that, the two take opposite directions. And the next day, she meets Nicole at school, and asks what happened between her and Sakiya after they returned from the aquarium, and she replies that they couldn't do anything, as he was too busy with the entrance exams, and decided not to enter more in contact with her. And to make matters worse, he told her to forget him. And upon seeing this, Nishi is surprised. After all, this is the first time she is seeing the intensely desolate cool girl. She gets angry and draws his attention, and then Ryuuto goes to talk to Sakiya, and questions him why he said those things for Nicole. And he explains that if they keep going out, the dates obviously won't end with them just holding hands, and if he indulges in that once, they'll certainly end up staying at home or in hotel rooms all the time, and that it would get in the way, as he would only realize the time lost after the end of the entrance exams. But Ryuuto says that he could have just sent her to wait for the entrance exams to end. But Sakiya doesn't want to maintain a vague relationship with Nicole, and that's why he made that decision. Besides, he believes that she will be fine, as she has good friends. And then he changes the subject, and suggests that Ryuuto and Runa are getting along well now after the end of the festival, and he explains that everything is going well, but in a superficial way, as the atmosphere is still strange, due to him staying afraid of saying something stupid that might hurt her again. And as for Runa, she comments to Nicole that Ryuuto appears to be distant, to the point that she can't read his feelings, but Runa is also afraid of finding out what is actually happening, and this is making communication between them even worse, harder. And with that, she deduces that they won't be able to continue having a relationship. And Ryuuto explains to Sakiya about feeling insecure because of Maria, and in order not to make Runa even more worried, he needed to be more careful not to talk to her sister. And upon hearing this, Sakiya says that he must change his mentality, otherwise he will live condemned to only having his girlfriend as a friend. But Ryuuto says that he doesn't see a problem with that, especially because he is already naturally introverted, therefore the idea of having female friends always seemed impossible for him. And he reports that when he started dating Runa, a totally different world opened up to him. After all, if it weren't for her, he wouldn't have gone to visit Harajuku, he wouldn't have gone on a boat, and he also wouldn't have gone to the summer festival. Furthermore, without Runa he wouldn't have gotten closer to his other friends either. And meanwhile, Runa and Nicole meet to comfort each other, as they are both going through difficult times, and Ryuuto explains that everything new that happened in his life was because of her, and that's why he doesn't have the slightest interest in her. Girls nearby. And Sakiya reveals that he would like to go back to 3 years ago, to have the chance to fix some things, and well, upon returning home, Ryuuto meets Maria on the way, and before they say goodbye, he asks them not to go out alone like that anymore. And she immediately understands, but says that her feelings won't disappear so easily. However, since the sports duo, she reports that she can't stop thinking about her sister, and Maria explains that Runa would give up anything since she was little. Whatever she wanted, just so Maria wouldn't get angry. And she feels worried about this situation because she is afraid that she will give up on him for that same reason, and that would make her very sad. After all, she likes Runa more than her selfish feelings, so she would never steal Ryuuto away from her. Your sister. And for this reason she believes that the best thing to do is for them to stop talking alone. So she turns away, and Ryuuto reveals that the first person he truly loved was Maria, and she just thanks him and follows your emotional path. And well, Ryuuto calls Runa, just to be able to hear her voice, but in the middle of the call he hears Maria scream, and goes to her to see what happened. Then a strange man runs out, and while all this happens, Runa is on the other end of the line without understanding what is happening. And then the two go to the police station, for Maria to report exactly how the man acted, and when she looks more closely at her things, she notices that she dropped her earring, and as for Ryuuto, he explains that he is just a classmate from Maria who was doing well at the time of the incident. And after leaving the police station, Ryuuto explains everything to Runa about what happened, and she informs that she already sent her mother to pick up Maria at the police station, and then Ryuuto thanks her for the help and asks to explain why she was with her sister. And Runa asks them to talk about it next Saturday before he goes to cram school, and she reveals that she would also like to say something to him. And when the day arrives, Ryuuto tries to explain himself, but she interrupts him and talks about the horror his sister must have gone through with that molester, and Ryuuto again tries to explain why he was with her sister, but Runa tells him to forget this, and to prevent him from seeing her bad side anymore. The girl asks the two to break up, and she says that she has wanted to tell him this for a long time, and Runa reports that this is another new experience that she had being by his side, because this time it is she who is ending a relationship, and not her boyfriend, but she lets him. Of course he's not happy about having this first time, and although everything is over, she says she is very grateful for having had the opportunity to spend all this time with him. When a couple passes in front of them, and they talk about going shopping, and upon hearing this, Runa remembers when did the same alongside Ryuuto. And besides that, they both start to remember several other moments they spent together. And then a boy playing with cars passes by them too, and she remembers when the two were talking about sports cars, and making analogies with that. And Ryuuto remembers when Runa had said that she had already achieved what she wanted during high school, which was to find a person who she was sure would be by her side forever. And then she would create a family with that person, having several children. Then Ryuuto starts crying, and states that he has no desire to break up, and he says that that night with Maria he had just told him not to go out anymore together alone, and having said that he asks her what he should do, and Runa says that she doesn't know either, but assures that she also likes him a lot, and was just afraid of him starting to hate her. And precisely for that reason Runa became insecure about her own feelings. And then she confesses that she didn't want to be saying these things to him, and Ryuuto tells her to say everything without restrictions, in which she states that she is hating herself too, and he tells her to calm down, because they are just teenagers, so it is natural for them to commit errors. And he makes it clear that he wants to make these mistakes with her forever. After all, his greatest desire is to become an adult with her, and upon hearing this, she apologizes to him, and confesses that she was doing wrong in wanting to break up, in that the little boy from before ends up hitting Ryuuto in the head with the cart, and everyone laughs at the situation. And well, at the end of the afternoon, she apologizes to him again, because all their long talk ended up making him miss his class, but Ryuuto assures him that he will make up that class. And then Runa comes back with the car analogies, and she says she was putting the brakes on her feelings for him, even after he said she runs like a sports car. And then Runa decides to go back to acting more like a sports car, and guarantees that she will let her feelings for him accelerate with everything, and the two kiss, and Ryuuto comments about not being able to help her with her friendship project anymore, after all he stopped being friends with Maria. And Runa says it's okay because her real goal wasn't to be her friend but to go back to being Maria's sister. But she believes she made her sister hate her even more with that. But Ryuuto says that in fact, Maria likes her. And then Runa comments that she gave another pair of her earrings to her sister, in the hope that they would meet again as adults and wearing the same earrings, and upon hearing this, he remembers when Maria had said that she lost her earring, in that he hurries, and upon arriving at the place where she would have lost it, he manages to find the earring. And Runa is surprised to discover that her sister still had this, and Ryuuto explains that her sister had only moved to the same school as her, to try to make her happy, and then the girl gets emotional, as she believes that she will get your sister back. And the next day, the teacher announces that Maria's English essay won a National Excellence Award. Runa applauds her and reveals to everyone that they are sisters. And after that, Maria takes her aside to talk about what she said, and Runa gives her back her earring and says that she is also very happy that she transferred to the same school as her. And then the other students come to them, and Ryuuto notices that the friendship project ended as a brotherhood project, and after that, winter arrives, and when they meet, Runa goes after Ryuuto so they can make those stops. And then the other students come to them, and Ryuuto notices that the friendship project ended as a brotherhood project, and after that, winter arrives, and when they meet, Runa goes after Ryuuto so they can do those stops. Runa comments that Christmas is coming, and although there are many other happy people out there, she claims that no one is happier than her, and Ryuuto is embarrassed that Runa is holding him in front of everyone. However, she says that she will not stop expressing what she feels for him, and then Runa changes the subject and asks what they are going to do on Christmas Eve, and he just remembers that day when they almost went to the finale, and feels that he must take advantage of the push that this holy night will give him. But Runa proposes that they do something else. In this case she wants him to help her in Operation Curls and Braids, and then she explains that she has returned to having a normal sisterly relationship with Maria, and that's why she wants to do it. A dream that he had already given up on, and the dream would be to return to live with his sister. And she makes it clear that her father still loves her mother, and since she just got divorced, she is free, and Runa believes that this is the ideal time for them to be a couple again. But Ryuuto asks how she intends to do it. Her parents get closer, and Runa says that this is exactly when Operation Curls and Braids comes in, and she explains that she got the name from a book she read at school, where two very similar girls meet and realize they are twins. So the two start doing various things together, hoping that their parents will meet, and in the end, they get what they want and return to being a happy family like before. And Runa says that Maria agreed to do that too. And then he asks if she intends to do this on Christmas Eve, and Runa says yes, because her idea is to take her parents to meet without them knowing, because once they have dinner together again, maybe they will remember how much they loved each other. At this Ryuuto understands her plan but asks if his presence would interfere, and Runa says no. After all, her excuse for this dinner to happen would be to introduce him to her father as her boyfriend, because this is the only way for him to quit his job for a while and show up. So Ryuuto agrees to participate in this dinner with her, and the next day, Runa decides to write a letter to read to her parents at dinner. And suddenly Ichi appears in the room, and when they look at him, everyone gets a huge shock because now he was in shape. And when Akari sees him, the girl gets all blushy, and compares him to Lee Jun, a famous guy that she likes. However, Ryuuto says that he looks just a little different from before, but Akari says that his change has been radical. Plus he is also the same height as Lee Jun, so Ichi is now exactly the profile of boys she likes, and that drives her completely crazy. And then Runa says that it's enough for her to date him now. That is, she rejected the boy because he only liked his appearance, and he took care of himself. He's handsome. Now she wants it. Honestly, but Akari remembers that she humiliated him on the day of the festival, so she thinks it would be bad to run after him after that, so Yamana decides to leave everyone behind. And upon arriving in an isolated place, she is thoughtful about whether or not to block Sakiya, and then Nishi goes to her to talk. But when she is unsure of what to say, he says that the final syllables of their names match, and for him this could only be fate. And upon hearing this, she notices that he is trying to hit on her, and then Yamana states that he is far from achieving anything with her, and Nishi says that she is aware of this, but if he doesn't do anything, he won't be able to either anything. Then she apologizes, and says that she has a boyfriend, and Nishi notices that all her friends are in the spring of their lives, as they all have feelings for someone, even if they are not reciprocal, and meanwhile in the course, the teacher puts pressure at students, telling them that they only have 1 year until college entrance exams, so they shouldn't use Christmas Eve as an excuse to relax. And as for Ryuuto, the boy despairs, because he will only act if he realizes that he is going to meet Runa's father, and for an introvert like him this will almost be the end of the world. And upon arriving at the meeting place, he starts rehearsing a presentation to do when he meets her father, and then Runa appears just in time, and asks him to go. And when she gets there, her mother is surprised to see her, and Maria explains that they don't usually do this all the time, so they should take the opportunity to meet now. And then Runa says that she already told her father to attend too, as their intention is to have a Christmas party like they used to, and Maria says that if she had told her mother in advance, she probably wouldn't want to go. And she explains that their father is not someone she would like to meet, however if her daughters want that, she will provide a family dinner for them. And when the girl's father appears there, he is accompanied by another woman. And it doesn't take long for them to discover that this is his future wife. And when faced with this harsh reality, Runa starts to cry, and Ryuuto decides to take her home safely. And when they get there, he notices that she still has the same blank expression as before, due to the shock she suffered, so he thinks it's better to go home. But she holds him and asks him not to leave her alone that night. However, he says that she is with her father, but Runa informs her that her father has plans for that night, so she wants to take advantage of that to be with him, and Ryuuto starts to blush, and says that he can't do that now. After all, he had promised to respect her time. And then Runa goes up to him, and says that it's okay to go to bed if she goes with him. But when she gets too close to him, the boy notices that she's very hot, and when Ryuuto measures her temperature, he discovers that girl had a fever of almost 40 degrees. And so he decides to take her to bed, and then puts a damp cloth on her head, and while he thinks about what he can do to help her more, Runa says that she loves him, and Ryuuto takes her hand and feels very sorry, desire to protect her. And as for Nishi, he approaches Yamana's work, and memorizes a sentence in his head to ask her to be his girlfriend, as a result of which she is dismissed from work, and he starts following her on the street, but suddenly she runs away and goes to Sakiya's room on the course, and says that she will wait for him until the entrance exams are over. And after saying that, she leaves the place, and then he goes to her, and upon seeing this, Nishi gets discouraged by her, and her friend calls him to tell him about Ken's lie. And meanwhile, Akari is amazed seeing Ichi's photos, and the next day, Runa comments that his fever has already gone down, and also says that she is happy to be with him that Christmas morning. And speaking of which, she remembers that she had bought him a Christmas present, and when she opens it, Ryuuto discovers that he got talismans, and Runa says that she was thinking about buying just one for her studies, but Nicole advised her to buy others too, as Ryuuto would certainly get sick if he just studied. And he says he also has a gift for her, but Ryuuto dresses up as Santa Claus to deliver the gift, and Runa starts laughing, and says that her father used to do that too. And when opening his gift, she notices that the ring Ryuuto gave her matches her ring a lot, and then Runa states that he is the person who brings her the most happiness now. And as they drink tea, Ryuuto reflects on how they still have a long way to go, and even though life can sometimes be bitter, he continues to appreciate the blessings they have. And after that, Runa calls Yamana to talk about her Christmas, and says that Ryuuto didn't try to do anything immoral to her the night before, and she finds that very strange. After all, they were alone on Christmas Eve. And Yamana deduces that he was just more cautious because she had a fever, so she asks if Runa would be willing to do that, and she says she doesn't know yet, however she's been fantasizing about him a lot lately. And Yamana says that what they have is true love, and unlike the relationships she's already had, this is the first in which they really love each other. And upon hearing this, Runa becomes happier, because it's the first time she actually loves someone. And this is a first time she can share with him. And this was another video on the channel. If you liked it and want more videos like this, subscribe and leave a like. See you in the next one.